Arthur used a little thing that I've seen happen a lot of times at work. When we went to work, we would always go in the break area where the coffee machine was, and wait till, not till the bell didn't ring, but anyways, wait till time to go get up on the floor. So I went in there one morning. I put my nickel, whatever a cup of coffee was, again probably a nickel, and I punched the right buttons and sat there, standing there waiting on my coffee to come out, and directly I heard it running, and I looked around. There wasn't no cup in it. All of it run down the drain. I said, well, this is a new machine. It don't only fix your coffee, it drinks it for you. So, and I've seen people cuss them poor machines till the machine would turn red-faced. Because they took your money. Maybe not that bad, but they'd cuss that machine just like as a human being because it took your nickel. I may have done a little of that back then. That was a long time ago. I don't think so, though. I got better sense to cuss a machine. But anyways, be positive when persecuted. This is a very difficult lesson for me, and it was kind of difficult for the author. He said he was writing stuff that he couldn't handle himself. So, and I've seen some stuff in here that's pretty difficult to handle. But anyways, looking at study starter questions on page 76. It said, be positive when persecuted. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake. And then the lesson objective is to encourage us to be happy about those times we are hurt because of our faith. Sometimes, things just happen. We get our feelings. I don't reckon I have any feelings. I don't pay much attention to what people say, unless it's real important. I try to listen. But sometimes you have to kind of overlook it. But anyways. Study starter questions on page 76. Hebrews 12, 1 and 2 says, we are to run with endurance the race that is set before us. We are to persevere no matter what we have to face. What two examples did the author use to encourage this command? About Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. What you got for that? He used two different things, looking backwards, of course, to encourage us to run with endurance the race that is set before us. Well, I think he's talking about two different things that happened more or less in chapter 11. What happened in chapter 11?
I have no idea.
Yeah, you do. We read about some things in chapter 11 that should encourage us and help us to what's called, a lot of people refer to it as a roll call of faith, but there's also a long list of witnesses there that had these problems, and they handled them, even though some of them were very difficult to handle. But it talks about. Yes, ma'am. Cloud of witnesses is one, and then it says in number 2, the second example was an individual who remained true despite all the hostility he encountered. Who was he? Jesus. That's right. No matter what happened to him, he handled it. Some things, of course, we're not Jesus, and things are difficult sometimes, but that we have to put our best foot forward and try to do what Jesus would do. I like the phrase that Christ was. I can't remember how it goes. Anyways, he was our example. He set the example for us, And I think what that example is how we ought to act like he acted when problems came up. But sometimes that's difficult. 1 Samuel 17, 1 through 11. How did Saul and his army respond to persecution from the Philistines and their champion Goliath? How many giant slayers were in his army? With what? Yeah. What happened to him? What happened to those four? They were all killed, weren't they? And what happened to Goliath? We know Goliath got killed. David killed him, but what happened to the rest of the people? They fled, didn't they? Said they were so afraid and fled from him. Sometimes my words don't come out right. Ma'am? Oh, yeah. 2 Samuel 21, 15 through 22. 4 giant slayers were mentioned as members of David's army. What were their names, and why do you think they were giant slayers in David's army but not in Saul's? Well, the giant slayers were in David's army, but Saul had some very strong and well armored people in his, but David's people slew them, slayed them, slew them. Anyways, killed them. Everybody got their names wrote down? The what? Yeah. Abishai. I don't know. What'd you say, Ronnie? I don't think any of them liked him, except maybe Jonathan. Jonathan got a good name. Sabichai, Elhanan. I don't know how to pronounce them things. But David was a giant slayer himself, wasn't he? So counting these 4, David had 5. Reckon why? The Philistines had 1. That was a guy getting close to 10 feet tall. Anyways, sir? Yeah.
He was not one of the giant slayers.
No.
The question is
No, he thought now which?
in 2 Samuel.
Yeah, I remember that name.
Yeah.
Now which?
He is one of the giants that tried to kill David.
But he didn't.
Obviously he didn't. But and then Abishai smote the Philistine and killed him. So he was the first of the giant slayers.
Okay. And then those other 4 killed one as well. And also David was a giant slayer, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, then Sibichai, the Hushathite, slew Seth, which was one of the sons of the giant.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another giant slayer.
Elhanan.
Elhanan, the son of, slew the brother of Goliath. And then, this one guy had 6 fingers on every.
Yeah, he was pretty
6 foot on every toe.
pretty bad on 24 and all, wasn't he?
Then Jonathan, the son of Shimei, the brother of David, slew him.
Mm-hmm. All right, I think we got all those answered. As far as introduction, how do you feel when others mistreat you because of your faith? I don't think I've ever been mistreated. Said you were overlooked for a promotion because you would wouldn't put the company welfare over your clients. I never wanted a promotion. I was in maintenance, and I made more money than supervision did anyway, so. You were overlooked for promotion. No. You were rejected and lost a huge sale because you wouldn't lie about your competitor. I never had to lie about my competitor. You were deemed judgmental because of your counterculture beliefs about the church, salvation, and worship. Well, you always had people, trying to put the church down, but I think I did pretty good representing it. You were a victim of identity politics because you used the Bible to define marriage and gender. I did that many times, and those other people didn't have a leg to stand on. You were isolated because you chose to homeschool your children and isolate them from curricula and influences you thought to be harmful. Now, kids didn't go to homeschool. How do you filter the pain that comes from stuff like that? In Wayne Jackson's book, The Bible and Mental Health, he quotes the actor, comedian W.C. Fields, 1880 to 1896, start each day with a smile and get it over with. Is that how it works? Not according to the eighth attitude Jesus wants us to be. Blessed are they who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, Matthew 5:10. And my chiropractor told me the best thing you could do when you get up in the morning is get out of the bed and get in front of the mirror and jump straight up and holler, boy, I feel great. But I can't get my feet off the ground. How'd I do that? I could then, but I can't now. But tell yourself you feel good when you get up every morning. That, of course, that has a lot to do with their disposition and everything else. If we tell ourselves we feel good, because even though a lot of times we don't, and most times, most of us is aging here now, you got problems when you get out of bed. What is it? Psalm chapter 90, verse 10 or something like that says, the sum of man's days are 70, and if by reason of use they be 80, it's intimated that there are a lot of other problems. Don't really name all the problems, but it does mention that there's going to be problems, and I can agree with that. Tink can agree with that. Several of us in here can agree with that. Lady sitting back there on the back row, there's a bunch of us in here. When you reach 80, there's added problems. There are those who revile us. That's a reference to the attitude, of course. Someone look up Psalms 2:21 through 23, and someone look up Matthew 27:35 through 40. Can't get no hands up. I don't know how Mark gets everybody. Everybody wants to read, but nobody wants to read for me.
You said Matthew 27:5.
Matthew 27:35 through 44.
Okay, that's the second one.
Yeah.
I'll do that one.
Okay, 1 Peter 2:21 through 23.
You said Psalms. You need somebody to get through Psalms.
No, Psalms, I said the wrong thing. It's 1 Peter 2:21 through 23. You sure I said Psalms?
1 Peter 2. Oh, okay. 1 Peter.
Okay.
I'm doing Matthew.
All right, let's read Matthew.
Just read Matthew?
Yeah. Not the whole chapter, just 27:35 through 44.
All right.
And they crucified him and parted his garments, casting lots, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophets. They parted my garments among them, and upon my vesture did they cast lots. And sitting down, they watched him there, and set up over his head this accusation, written, This is Jesus, the King of the Jews. Then there were 2 thieves crucified with him, one on the right hand and another on the left. And they that passed by reviled him, wagging their heads, and saying, Thou that destroyest the temple and buildest it in 3 days, save thyself, if thou be the Son of God. Come down from the cross. Likewise also the chief priests, mocking him with the scribes and elders, said, He saved others, himself he cannot save. If he be the King of Israel, let him now come down from the cross, and we will believe him. He trusted in God, let him deliver him now, if he will have him. For he said, I am the Son of God. The thieves also which were crucified with him cast the same in his teeth.
Okay, they were pretty rough on Jesus, weren't they? Making accusations that he didn't do. Said there are those who revile us. That's a reference to their attitude. They're demeaning and insulting like those who mistreated Jesus. There are those who persecute us. That's a reference to their actions. They look for ways to hurt or destroy us, like Paul when he was persecuting the church. And there are those who say all kinds of evil and lie about us. That's a reference to their accusations. They without compuncture, make up stuff to hurt us, like the antagonist Stephen had to face, Acts 6, 8 through 15. Sometimes people just tell stuff, make up stories and tell stuff, and of course it hurts if you let it. Unless you got a tough skin, you had to kind of let it run over your head, and that's what Jesus wants us to do, and not paying attention to it. But sometimes that's hard to do. And the author here says, "Rejoice and be exceeding glad." New King James Version. He said, "I got to tell you, I'm not there yet. I need some help with that one. You?" Most of us have problems with that. Sometimes we want to push back when we're pushed, and Jesus said that's not the right thing to do. It says, "Theirs is the kingdom of heaven." We see 3 things about this beatitude that are quite unique. To begin, it ends just like the first in this series of beatitudes. Then it's only one in this list that Jesus explains with detail. Finally, it's the only one that Jesus specifically applied to his immediate audience. See if you can find the 6 times he used the second person pronouns, you or yours. And who'd like to point those out? Anybody? Not everybody? Read that paragraph. Blessed.
For those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when others revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. For so they persecuted the prophets who were before you.
Okay. Got several of them in there, hadn't he? And it's as if Jesus was trying to encourage and warn those with him. Folks, this is already happening to some of you, and it's going to keep on happening, but don't let it get you down. Look up, dream of heaven. All right, let's got a little thing down here. What do you think? 10 spies returned from Canaan with a pessimistic report of obstacles in contrast to the optimistic report of opportunities. Bright by Joshua and Caleb. Numbers 14, 7 through 8. What happened when Joshua and Caleb came back and told? I figure he probably did, but maybe he's talking about the fact that Joshua and Caleb's were bright in contrast to how the others were, but that even didn't sound right. So you're probably right. Brought by Joshua and Caleb, Numbers 14, 7 through 8. What kind of report did they come back making?
They say it was a good land.
Yeah, good land. with milk and honey. And what did it say about it? If the Lord delight in us, he will do what? Bring us into this land. It's an exceeding good land. All their report was good, positive, and in contrast to that, what did the 10 spies, pessimists, move Israel to do?
Well, they believed the majority.
They did. And what did?
The 10 spies said, we are like grasshoppers in our own eyes before them.
Mm-hmm.
We see ourselves as grasshoppers. Of course, they attributed that to the giants as well. They also see us, but we see ourselves as grasshoppers, meaning insignificant and incapable.
Right.
We cannot do this. That was their message to the people. And the people believed the majority report and did not believe Joshua and Caleb.
It cost them dearly, didn't it?
Yeah, they didn't want to go wrong with it. Some of them.
How many years did it cost them wandering in the land of Canaan? $40? They could have went right on over into Canaan land. They'd only been traveling a short while and a short distance, and God was ready for them to cross the river and go into Canaan land. And these pessimistic spies come back and said, "Oh, there's grasshoppers in their sight. They're 12 feet tall." They were pretty tall, but not 12 foot hardly. But anyways, they wouldn't. They lied about what they seen, and got the people all upset, and they didn't want to obey Joshua, so it cost them dearly. Numbers 9, next page, Numbers 14, 9 through 10. What did the whole nation want to do to Caleb and Joshua when they stood up for God? They want to give them an award?
No.
What did they want to do to them? Kill them. All right. How did God describe Caleb? That's right. His obedient servant too, wasn't it? Had another question here I wanted to ask. Anyways, now think about the times you've had to face an angry group of people. Folks at work, neighbors, family, church members. Maybe it was because of something you believed and said about salvation, worship, or premarital or extramarital sex, adultery, civil justice, racism, identity politics. What is identity politics, Robert?
I'm not sure anybody knows.
It's whatever some folks want it to be.
You are what you believe politically. That's the attitude. You identify who you are and your value based on your politics, but you also identify other people's value and claim basically they're not worthy because of their political views. So it's more of a justification of yourself and a criticism of everybody who doesn't see things politically like you do.
We have a lot of people that do that on both sides, don't we?
That's what it is. That's the best answer I can give.
That sounds okay to me. It's pretty well what goes on, I think. It says, based on your response, check as many of the words below that you need to describe yourself. Anybody legalistic? Which means lawful or legal or lawful. Could be legal or it could not be legal.
Normally, that's used as a criticism. To say someone is legalistic, that's most of the time that's used as a criticism of that person.
Okay. Are you legalistic?
Sometimes.
I think all of us are. Critical, tend to find fault. Are we critical about certain people? Sometimes. Non-judgmental. To disprove or will not judge. That's the way we need to be, but we're not always that way. Indulging, which means taking part. Do we take a part in these arguings back and forth? Yes, most of us do. Different, which means not alike. Yeah, we're different in a lot of different ways. Human beings are. Martyr, a person who had rather die than to give up his religion. It's what you usually think of. A lot of people have died over the centuries when accused of being wrong about their religion and cost them their lives. But they'd rather die than to give up their religion or switch. Compromising. Die rather than... No. Look at the wrong. Settling of a dispute in which each person gives something they'd like to keep. Trading back and forth. Do we compromise with things we shouldn't compromise with?
That's one of the problems.
When it comes to God's word, there should be no compromising, should it? But if we, a lot of times, when we state the truth, I told Robert, I think last week, I had this young boy who was he identified himself as a Baptist. Of course, I wasn't teaching his doctrine. He took my whole class. He'd ask questions that didn't even pertain to things I said. And I said, sir, that don't even pertain to your salvation. Oh, yes, it does too. I said, it does not. I said, I taught you what the Bible teaches about salvation. I said, you're looking for a way out, and you are not going to find it. But he took my whole class. Several people sitting there, and they just got up and moved back in their seats. So I got a place for him this week. He's not going to do that.
Why did you have to be in there with being different?
Ma'am?
Why did you have to be in there with him?
Well, he was in my class,
Oh, he
in the jail.
was incarcerated?
Yeah. Yeah, being,
You should have had me in there with you.
well, I let him get away with it last week, but he's not going to get away with it this week. I'm going to tell him he's going to have to be quiet, or I'm fixing to call the jailer.
I started a singing service, and that's what I had. You couldn't say nothing.
Oh, it'd been nice, had you. Yeah. You'd have floundered him, wouldn't you?
Well, in a nice way. That's what he wanted.
Well, that's what I'm fixing to do in a nice way this week. I'm going to put him in his seat and just tell him he's not.
Yeah, I thought he was in there with you. I mean,
No, he was just set out to ruin my class, and he did it. I answered all his questions. I said, you've not asked a question that I haven't answered biblically. Now, what are you going to ask next? And the thing about it, I told him, I said, you're not even listening to my answers. When he asked one question, I started answering that. He's looking for something else to read.
yeah, he's incarcerated in there, so he can take up where he left off with them, and you have to leave.
He's not going to take this week's class. Like I said, I don't like calling the officers to anybody, but if he can't sit down and behave, I will. Tolerance. We need to show tolerance, don't we? And I showed tolerance for a whole class. How much do I supposed to show?
Well, we show tolerance for human weakness, but not a tolerance for sin.
Well, I think I showed plenty of tolerance for his human weakness, And so I think it's time I put a stop to it. I think most of those answers there, we use at some time or another, or we do sometime or another, don't we? Regarding our opponent, whoever, whatever we might be discussing. Number 3 over on page 82, it says, Matthew 27:32 through 50, we're reminded of the agony Jesus experienced at a place called Golgotha, which means place of the skull. Being hurt physically is one thing, but the emotional pain of a broken heart is quite another. Jesus had to endure both. To begin, there was the brutality of his death. Look at his hands, his feet, his side. Then there was the cruelty of all the derision he received from soldiers, peers, religious leaders, and his executioners. And here's some of the things they did. They mocked his majesty. When they said, "Hail, King of the Jews," they mocked his might, that you would destroy the temple and rebuild it back in 3 days. Save yourself. They mocked his messiahship. If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross. They mocked his mission. He saved others, he cannot save himself. They mocked his mindset. He trusts in God, let God deliver him now if he desires him. They mocked his message, for he said, "I am the Son of God." And how did Jesus respond? He quoted from the Bible and prayed some more. And the last little sentence there said again, he was positive in the face of persecution. I hope we can do that, at least some. Things is going to get worse, I'm afraid, and we need to be positive in the face of persecution. Be like Christ. In other words, Christ set the example for us, and I'm not talking about in baptism. He set the example for the life he lived and how he responded to critics and all that. We need to watch and pattern our lives after him. Matthew 27:41 through 31. That's kind of backwards, isn't it? And next to the verses below, fill in the blanks with a word that starts with S and reminds us of the hostility Jesus had to endure before he went to the cross. Matthew 27 through 26. What is the word used there? Starts with S. Scourged?
That's what I have.
About Matthew 27:28. Dripped. Matthew 27:28 again. Two words used in Matthew 27:28 that starts with a S and scarlet. I got C. That pencil didn't write. It spelled C-A-R-L-E-T. Matthew 27 through 30.
Spit on him.
Spit on him. You know, we have problems with that, don't we? Yet Christ, they spat on him, and he didn't reply about it by spitting back on him. Matthew 27 through 30.
Struck him.
All right, he smote him, didn't he? Struck. Matthew 27 through 31.
He suffered.
Sir?
He suffered.
Suffered? I got Simon.
27:31.
Yeah. What does it say?
That's 32. After they had mocked him, they took the robe off him and put his own raiment on him and led him away to crucify him. There is no reference in verse 31 that starts with a C.
Yes. No, the only thing I found was Simon.
That's in 32.
That's in 32?
Uh-huh.
Let me look at my Bible. Did I get that wrong? Matthew 27:31. I may have. 27:31. Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the common hall and gathered unto him the whole band of soldiers.
No, 27:31.
Oh, I'm reading 27:27.
27:31, yeah.
And set up over his head accusation written, "This is Jesus, King of the Jews."
27:31.
Oh, I'm still getting. And after that they had mocked him. They took the robe off him and put on his own raiment on him and led him away to crucify him. You're right. I don't know where I picked that up.
This translation, I've got it, it says stripped.
Huh?
This translation says they stripped him.
Yeah. That's in mine if I read the right verse.
Standard says that after they had mocked him, they took the scarlet robe off of him.
Okay.
So they guess they got that from the New American Standard.
May have. Matthew 27:27.
The soldiers,
Soldiers. Matthew 27:38 through 44, or 38 and 44.
I got the chief priest. The chief priest, my daughters.
Okay, what four groups of people mocked Jesus as he hung on the cross? Matthew 27:38 and 44. I got thieves and thieves. 38, 44.
I got thieves, yeah, I got thieves.
Thieves
Chief priest are the end of it.
and thieves.
Some of the people that passed by often,
The only thing I found, neither one of those in the King James Version was thieves in both.
Thieves is 27:38.
yeah, that's what I got thieves, and had chief priest out there with them.
Yeah. Oh,
People that passed by, 39. And then the chief priest with the scribes and elders in verse 41.
okay. All right. Do you know the name Waddy Piper? Okay, that's a pen name. How about the real name Arnold Monk? Anybody know Arnold Monk? Me neither. You might not recognize his name, but I bet you're familiar with one of his books. It sold more than 8 million copies and injected an unforgettable mantra into our culture. His little engine that could is about a freight train full of toys and that needed to get over a mountain. Big engines refused the task, but a little engine volunteered, gave it all he had, and you know the rest of the story. I think I can, I think I can, I think I can, I know I can. Is that the buzz? It buzzed. I'm gonna stop right there and let Mark finish up. Anybody got any questions or comments?